Hey, what's up YouTube? Bardock here, and today I am bringing you guys a Dragon Ball The Breakers Raider tier list. Now, there are only 3 Raiders in this game, and the game's only been out for a week, but I did want to actually do this because I thought it'd be pretty interesting to just kind of like discuss how I feel, because the 3 Raiders, they're very well made. They both have, or all 3 of them I should say, have strengths and weaknesses, and they're all kind of like designed really well. One thing to note is that because the game is only 1 week old, a lot of people don't have them leveled up, and a lot of people don't know their full potential yet either. Because a big part of this game with the Raider is when you do get those level ups, you can upgrade their abilities, right? So this tier list is basically just looking at it from the point of view of like a level 1 Raider, or around there, like a low level, right? Just starting off in the game. And then once some time passes on, and more people level up to like super high levels on each of these Raiders and they max out all of their stats, then we can look back at it, right? Maybe in like a month or two. But for today, I just wanted to give my kind of like raw thoughts after the past week of playing the game. What I think about each of these Raiders here. So with that being said, let's actually start right off the bat with B. And it pains me to do this, but I think it has to go to Cell. Cell's actually my favorite Dragon Ball villain as well, like in the entire series, all of the series. Definitely Cell. Now, the reason why I put him B here is because the issue with him is that, well, let's actually talk about the strengths first before we go over the weaknesses. So a good thing about Cell is that he could actually get out of his larva stage really, really quick, right? His stage 1, it only takes like 2 civilians and I think only like 1 actual player if you can somehow manage to kill them as a larva. It's pretty difficult to, but if you just somehow catch somebody off guard in the beginning and you kill them, then that's really good first off, but it's really good for leveling up as well. So yeah, that's like the first strength I would personally say with Cell, is that he can get out of larva really quick. Another good strength is that when you actually do get to stage 3, semi-perfect Cell, his super attacks are really, really good. Like, he has the energy blast volley where he keeps just shooting the green beams or blasts. And then his other one is like gravity impact, but it's from a distance, right? And that one's actually really good because if you're able to hit it, it does a lot of damage, I've noticed. It does like half of like a level 3 survivor's HP. It's insane, like ridiculous. Another thing is that Cell has key detection as well, right? Across all of his forms besides larva. He does have key detection, which is going to really help with like finding survivors. Like, it shows you the survivors' auras. And then I would probably say his last like strength, which this can kind of go for all of the killers, but he is really strong in level 4. But Cell especially, what you could do with him is his Solar Kamehameha, which is like one of his like his main super when he gets to final form. It's the one that has like a 2-minute cooldown. Each of the Raiders have that when they're in their final stage. But his Solar Kamehameha, what you can do with it, right, is you could actually like hide it from survivors. You could aim it in one direction, and then if you know the timing, you could actually just immediately turn it, do like a 180, and then the second that you let go of the button, it'll just fire it. And you could do that to kind of like catch a survivor off guard. Like, if you see them in the distance when you're first starting it, you just aim the Kamehameha the other way, and then last second you just swap right back, and it just will instantly like destroy them. So yeah, I mean, for sure, Cell, you could definitely still win with him. I would just say it's quite difficult, because now we'll get into the weaknesses, right? I would say his biggest weakness, Cell, is that despite having like such a good start, getting out of larva really quick, he just kind of seems to like falter. He kind of seems to fumble. An imperfect Cell. Imperfect Cell is the biggest thing about him, the biggest weakness. I find myself and even other players that I've played against struggling so hard to get out of imperfect Cell, because his damage is just really bad. The key detection, while he does have it, I don't know if it like works like this, but it seems really weak as imperfect Cell, but then it gets better for the forms. I don't know if that's like actually a mechanic or not. I'm just assuming it is. But I feel like whenever I use key detection as imperfect Cell, I just really can never find people. Unless I'm just unlucky, but yeah. It is still good that he has the ability, though, and he does have Solar Flare, which you can link into like Special Beam Cannon, but even his supers don't really hit that hard. And another thing I could say about Cell is that with semi-perfect form, despite that form, stage 3, actually having like good supers, like I mentioned earlier, His ranged attack is pretty bad. Like, he just fires Kamehamehas. It does okay damage, but like, I feel like any of the Ki Blast volleys or like beam attacks, like fast beams, are a lot better for the killers. You'll probably see it yourself. Anyone that is watching this video, if you guys have played Cell, I can guarantee that you've probably had at least a couple bad games with him at a low level. But the one thing I can really say about Cell is that I think he could actually be like A tier or even S tier when he is leveled up. This is just, you know, as I stated in the beginning of the video, this is just like an early thoughts on it at a low level raider. And Cell definitely needs the upgrades for sure, but I think he actually can be pretty good with those upgrades if you do manage to level him up a ton and put all the skill points in. Now, for A rank, I would understand if somebody told me like Cell is better than Buu, but I'm personally putting Buu in A, and the reason why is that Buu becomes a monster when you reach stage 3 Super Buu. Like, an actual monster. So again, we'll talk about the strengths first and then the weaknesses after. The strengths are for sure like Super Buu and Kid Buu, like without a doubt. Like, once you get Super Buu, it's basically GG. Like, the game's over. Yeah, basically, what'll happen, right, is with Super Buu, you just have the insane range attacks. It's ridiculous. Like, he just beams people down. His damage is off the charts too with that as well. And he has an insane moveset. I think you have Ki detection. He has the angry shout, so if you're getting hit, you could use that as like a way to get out of survivor attacks. I think he has Ill Bomber, and then what's it? I don't even know what his last one. He has like one other skill, but I think it's pretty good. But I would say the biggest thing that makes Buu better than Cell, in my opinion, is the fact that he could actually stop the entire match, right? If you're able to get to Super Buu and then also fill up Super Buu's meter, the entire game just comes to a halt, right? Because Buu absorbs everyone, everyone's inside Buu, and then he could use that time to even get a couple more kills while they're inside him, because they have to go and rip out, like, you know, the Fat Buu egg. And then not only that, but once that does happen, you turn into Kid Buu, and then he's just insane as well. His damage is even more off the charts because he's stage 4. He has Assault Rain, which Assault Rain, in my opinion, is probably like the best 2-minute cooldown super out of the 3 stage 4s. It's not impossible to dodge because you would just go and hide in a cave. But if you're not able to hide in a cave in time, then you're just getting one-shotted from the entire map. Like, no matter where you are, you're just getting obliterated. Not only that, but Kid Buu does retain the same exact skills that Super Buu has, which are ridiculous. Again, Ill Bomber, the Ki detection. His Ki detection is crazy too. You can just see a bunch of people. But when you go into the weaknesses, though, this is kind of when Kid Buu can like fumble a little bit, just like Cell. What happens is, as Buu, right, you start off as Spopovich, and then you go into Fat Buu. And Spopovich is a pretty big weakness. And again, this is kind of why I can like see people putting Buu as like the worst killer. But in my opinion, the strengths just kind of like outweigh the weaknesses, at least in my personal experience. With Spopovich, you have to not only build up your meter, right? But then once you build up your meter after a couple civilians or a couple players, you have to fly all the way back to the Majin Buu egg to awaken him, right? And that can just waste so much time. You'll end up like losing multiple power keys by the time it even happens. And not only that, but once you actually do awaken Fat Buu, I find it that it's kind of tough to actually like down people with Fat Buu. He kind of runs into this similar situation as like in Perfect Cell, where the damage just isn't good enough and like the skill set isn't really good enough to do much. But if you can like manage to get lucky and get out of Fat Buu, then it's just GG, right? It's just you get to Super Buu, and then the game's probably just over for the survivors. Like, you're probably gonna win unless they can like, you know, get all the keys in really quick and then build the super time machine to like halfway. But I think Buu is definitely in the middle of the pack out of the 3 for sure, without a doubt. All right, and then here we go. Lastly, the heavy hitter, right? Mr. Frieza. Now, there's not really many weaknesses about Frieza at all that I can really state, which is why he's the best in the game to a lot of people. He basically has no weakness. The only weakness, I'll say the weakness is first for him because there aren't really any. The only one that I could really think of is the fact that he doesn't really have tracking in the way of like key detection, right? He doesn't have that as an ability, but he does have tracking with Zarbon and Dodoria, and their tracking is actually pretty good as well. I didn't realize it until I finally started using him more, but it's actually in ways almost as good as key detection. You just can't see the exact aura of the survivor, right? But that's like the only thing I could really say about weaknesses with Frieza, genuinely. In terms of the strengths, though, this is when Frieza just becomes ridiculous, right? I could just list them off. So first thing is he starts off, he has Zarbon and Dodoria, but when you start off in first stage, he has the ranged attack, which is just the death beam, but it hits hard. It has like homing missiles. It feels like a homing missile, genuinely. Like it'll just lock onto somebody and then just beam them and like one tap them in the beginning of the game. Another good thing about him is that because of the way that he's like designed, right? There are traditional civilians, but there's also Namekians as well. And what the Namekians can do are they can either do two things, right? When you kill one of them, they could either give you less meter but give you a Dragon Ball, or give you no Dragon Ball and more meter. In either way, it's like a win-win situation, right? Like me personally, I kind of prefer to not get a Dragon Ball and just get more meter so I could transform faster. But if you're getting a Dragon Ball, that's also really good, right? Because you're denying the wish from the survivor team. And that's like the Shenron wish is such like a big part of the game. It really is like a win condition for the most part. Unless either side like really messes up, it's usually just ends up as a GG. Whoever gets the Dragon Balls. What else can I really say about Frieza? I mean, there's a ton, right? Another thing is that whenever he takes damage, it builds up his meter as well. He's the only killer in the game that can even do that. Like Buu and Cell, they have to down people and they have to absorb them or absorb civilians, right? Frieza, though, on the other hand, you could still kill civilians to build up meter, but just from taking damage, he builds up his meter naturally. So even if the survivor team's trying to jump you, you'll eventually get your form. It's been so many matches like in the streams that I've been doing where people play Frieza and they're just getting to stage 4 like almost basically every game. People are getting stage 4 Frieza, which usually doesn't happen with Buu or Cell. It usually they end around like stage 2 or 3, but Frieza can consistently get to stage 4, which means he's consistently getting to the strongest point that he can be. And then not only that, but when you do get to stage 4, he has the Death Ball as his 2-minute super, right? And that has a pretty good AoE. I mean, that's like another downside, I guess you could say, is that his Death Ball, it'll show them the area, like the AoE of where it's going to hit. And I mean, I guess you could kind of hide it, but it also takes a while for him to throw the Death Ball. Cell will just immediately do a Solar Kamehameha, or Perfect Kamehameha, whatever you want to call it. But Frieza, not only do you have to like set the area of effect down of where you want to throw the Death Ball, but it also takes him like 5 seconds to, or maybe even more than that to actually throw it. But if you could actually hit people with it, then just like the other two supers from the stage 4s, it'll just one-shot people. It's insane. It's a giant circle. You could actually, one good thing that you could do is to push people off of the super time machine is you could throw it there. Even if they dodge it, it just means that they weren't on the super time machine. You could kind of use it as a way to get them off of it. Frieza maintains Zarbon and Dodoria as well. That's another thing, right? He keeps that for the entire game. For all of his stages, he keeps Zarbon and Dodoria on his moveset. Very, very good for tracking, like I said. And then not only that, but he also has his other skill is where he like does the energy barrier or energy shockwave thing. I forgot what it's called in Xenoverse, but you could basically use it as an evasive, just like Angry Shout and just like Cell's vanishing thing. You could use it as a way to get out of enemies' attacks. And I see Frieza being like an absolute monster once he's leveled up, right? Like he's already a monster at low level, but I could just see him being ridiculous when you have him maxed out with all of his stats level 20. He's probably insane. But that's like the only thing I could really say about the 3 killers, right? There's only 3 in the game, so not really much else to talk about until we get the next one, which will be Grade 8 Vegeta. I'm assuming it's going to be the Saiyans, right? Like Nappa, Vegeta, Raditz. So I'll probably come back and do like a part 2, because what also might happen is we might see a bunch of balance changes by then as well. But this is kind of just an early, first week impressions of how I think the Raiders are. But let me know you guys' thoughts down below. I'm curious to hear what you guys say. I feel like a lot of people are going to say Frieza is the best, but I think, there is a bit of a tug of war between Buu and Cell of who's better. I just personally think Cell is worse, but I would love to hear you guys' thoughts down below. Definitely leave it in the comments. I do stream Dragon Ball Breakers every single night on twitch.tv/BardockLive. So if you guys want to watch some Breakers content, you know where to go. You know where to go for sure. And yeah, the only other thing that I could really say is that I love this game, and I love the way that each of these killers have like strengths and weaknesses. Although Frieza doesn't really have that many, but still, I think that's really well designed all around for all three of them. And I think that's about it though, guys. I will see you in the Twitch stream if you do stop in, but if not, I'll see you in the next YouTube video as well. Take care, everyone. Have a good night and a good day tomorrow. Peace.